For years, the door was closed. Not because you were not ready, not because you did not have enough, because they needed it closed. The value was in the exclusivity. The story only worked while most people were on the outside looking in. And then one day, without much warning, the door opened, and something in your chest said, "Finally." That feeling was not wrong. It was just pointed at the wrong thing. Because the door did not open because you earned it. It opened because someone on the inside needed someone on the outside to walk through it. And your brain, running the oldest software it has, interpreted access as opportunity. It always does. That is not a flaw. That is exactly how the mechanism works. The people who understood what was actually happening did not feel excitement when the door opened. They felt something quieter, something closer to a warning, not because they were smarter, because they were asking a different question. Not, what is behind the door, but, why is the door open now? That single question changes everything, and once you learn to ask it, you will never walk through an open door the same way again. If you want videos that do not just show you the door, but explain exactly why it opened, subscribe now. That is what this channel is built for. Think about the last time a door opened for you. Maybe it was not money. Maybe it was a job. A company that never noticed you before suddenly called back. A position that always went to someone else was suddenly yours. You did not question it. You felt seen. You felt chosen. That feeling is old. It is older than money. It is older than markets. It comes from a time when access meant survival, when being let into the group meant food, protection, belonging. Your brain still runs that program every single day. It does not know the difference between a hunting party and a hedge fund. It only knows one thing: access equals safety, access equals opportunity. So when a door opens, something in you relaxes. The guard comes down. The questions stop. You stop asking why. You start asking what is next. That is the exact moment the mechanism wants you in. Think about relationships too. Someone distant suddenly gets warm. Someone who never had time for you suddenly has all the time in the world. You do not ask why the timing shifted. You just feel wanted. And feeling wanted turns off the part of you that checks for reasons. This is not only about romance or friendship. It happens with trends. A closed niche becomes public overnight. A private community turns into a mass movement. You join because it finally feels available, not because you checked what changed. Now bring it back to money, because that is where the pattern gets loud. Every closed market has a wall. Every wall exists for a reason. High minimums, complex requirements, insider access only. The wall is not incompetence. The wall is intentional. It keeps the crowd out while the value is still forming. It keeps the story exclusive while the early holders build their position. And then, at some point, the wall comes down. Not because generosity arrived, because timing arrived. Somebody on the inside needs somebody on the outside. They need buyers. They need believers. They need new hands to hold what they are releasing. So the message changes. Suddenly, access is framed as fairness. Suddenly, the platform says everyone deserves a seat at the table. Suddenly, the product that used to require connections is one click away. And your brain, trained by scarcity, reads that as good news. It reads an open door as proof that something good is inside. It never stops to ask a harder question. Why is the door only opening now? Look at history and the pattern repeats with almost boring precision. Assets held by a small circle for years, quietly, without noise. Then, right before a shift, the circle expands. New platforms appear, new products appear, new easy access appears. The public gets invited in at the exact moment insiders start looking for the exit. This is not a conspiracy. It does not need one. It is simply how closed systems behave when they reach a certain point. Concentration creates risk for the people holding the concentration. The solution to that risk is distribution, and distribution needs a story. The story is called access. The story is called finally. This is for you too. It feels like inclusion. It functions like an exit ramp for somebody else. You are not the villain in this. You are not even the mistake. You are simply reacting exactly the way a human brain is built to react. Open door, lower guard, walk in. That reaction kept your ancestors alive for thousands of years. It just was never designed for markets, platforms, or manufactured moments. It was designed for tribes, not for systems built to use tribal instincts against you. Consider how often the same shape repeats without you noticing the pattern. A private club opens public membership right when its best years are behind it. A neighborhood gets called up and coming right when early buyers are ready to sell. A career path becomes accessible to everyone right when the top of that path narrows. Each time, the language sounds like an invitation. Each time, the timing tells a different story than the language does. You were taught to listen to the words. You were never taught to check the clock. Nobody sits you down and explains that timing is data. Nobody explains that the moment a door opens is itself information. Schools teach you what is behind doors. They never teach you to ask, why this door? Why now? So you grow up reading offers instead of reading timing. You read what is being sold instead of who benefits from you buying it. This gap is not an accident of education. It is simply not the job of any single person to close. Institutions do not profit from you asking why now. They profit from you asking what is the upside. And so the upside question gets amplified everywhere you look. Every advertisement, every headline, every notification is engineered around it. The why now question gets buried. Nobody buries it on purpose, necessarily. It just never gets asked loud enough to interrupt the excitement. Excitement is fast. Timing analysis is slow. Fast always wins the moment. This is why the feeling of finally is so dangerous. It arrives instantly. It short-circuits the slower, quieter part of your mind. The part that would normally pause and check the surrounding conditions. The part that would normally ask, who wanted this door open right now? That part exists in you. It is just quieter than the part that feels included. And the entire mechanism depends on the quiet part staying quiet a little longer. Just long enough for you to walk through. Just long enough for the transaction to complete. Just long enough for the timing to no longer be in your favor. Pausa. Before we continue, drop a comment right now. Has a door ever opened for you at exactly the wrong moment, and you only understood why later? Tell me below. I read every single one. Let us slow down here, because this is where most people stop paying attention. The feeling of finally does something specific inside your body. It releases a small wave of relief. Relief feels like truth, but relief is not truth. Relief is only the absence of tension, and tension is exactly what should exist when timing does not make sense. When you remove the tension too early, you remove your own protection. This is why the mechanism does not need to hide anything. It does not need secrecy. It only needs speed. It needs the relief to arrive before the question does. Every open door is a race between those two things. Relief usually wins, because relief is instant and questions take time. The system does not have to cheat. It only has to be faster than your doubt. Now let us name the mechanism directly, without softening it. Your brain uses one signal to judge safety. That signal is access. If a door is closed to you, your brain assumes danger or unworthiness. If a door opens to you, your brain assumes safety and validation. This is not logic. This is a shortcut. Shortcuts exist to save energy. Most of the time, the shortcut works fine. Doors and rooms are simple, but markets are not rooms. Trends are not rooms. Opportunities are not rooms. They are systems built by people who understand exactly how your shortcut behaves. They know that opening access reads as generosity in your mind. They know that inclusion reads as safety in your mind. They know the alarm that should ring the moment a door opens stays silent instead. It stays silent precisely when it should be the loudest. This is the part nobody says out loud. Access is not proof of value. Access is only proof that somebody decided to grant it. The question is never whether the door is real. The door is always real. The question is, who benefits from you walking through it today? Sometimes the answer is nobody but you. That does happen, but you cannot know that without asking, and almost nobody asks. Almost nobody pauses at the threshold and checks the timing first. Now consider the cost of never asking, not the financial cost. The deeper one. Every time you mistake access for opportunity, you outsource your judgment. You let the mere existence of an open door replace your own analysis. Over years, this becomes a habit. The habit becomes identity. You become someone who moves when doors open, not someone who checks why. And the people who built the door count on exactly that identity. They do not need to lie to you. They only need you to stay reactive. Reactive people do not ask why now. They only ask, can I get in? This is the quiet cost. Not one bad decision, a pattern of them. A pattern that repeats every time a formerly closed thing suddenly opens. Jobs, relationships, markets, communities, products, platforms. Every single one runs on the same nervous system trick, and every single one can be seen clearly once you know where to look. You do not need to become paranoid. Paranoid people freeze at every door. You simply need to become someone who asks one extra question, not what is behind the door. Why is the door open now? That question alone changes your position from passenger to observer. An observer sees the room and the exits at the same time. A passenger only sees the room. Think back to your own life for a moment. Think of a door that opened right when you needed it to. Now ask, honestly, who else needed that door open at that exact time? You may not find an answer immediately. That is fine. The goal is not certainty. The goal is the habit of asking, because certainty rarely arrives in time to matter. But the habit of asking arrives early enough to matter every single time. This is not a warning to avoid every door forever. Doors open for real reasons too. Some access is simply access. The skill is not refusal. The skill is timing awareness. The skill is separating the feeling of finally from the fact of why now. One is chemical. The other is information. Chemical feelings fade in minutes. Information stays true regardless of how you feel. Most people never separate the two. They let the feeling answer the question. The people who do separate them move differently through every open door. They walk in calm, not excited, not afraid, just aware. And awareness, over years, compounds into something that looks like instinct, but it is not instinct. It is a habit you built, one door at a time. Think about how differently your week would look with just that habit in place. A message arrives offering something that was never offered before. Instead of relief, you notice the timing first. Instead of finally, you ask why now, not out loud, not to anyone else, just to yourself, quietly. That single pause does not close the door. It doesn't need to. It simply gives the slower part of your mind a chance to speak. Sometimes that part will say the door is fine, walk through it. Sometimes that part will say, something does not add up here. Either way, you walked in with your eyes open instead of your guard down. That is the entire shift. Not refusal, not fear, just timing awareness. Most people will never build this habit. That is not a failure on their part. Nobody taught them to look at timing as information. Nobody taught them that access itself can be a signal, not just an outcome. You are learning it now, one video, one open door, one pause at a time. The next open door will not announce itself as a test. It will look like an opportunity, because that is what open doors always look like. Your job is not to distrust it on sight. Your job is to ask the question that slows the relief down. Why is this door open now? Carry that question with you longer than you carry this video. The door is going to open again. It always does. The only question worth asking is the one almost nobody asks in time. Why now?